Scott Walker. I got to tell you, I have been developing this conspiracy theory, and it might be, there might not be anything to it, or there might be a lot to it. I don't know. But Scott Walker, today is announcing that he's running for president. And so, of course, Drudge shows a picture of him in, shirt and slacks with his shirt sleeves rolled up, crossing the street in front of a pizza place, just every man. And in fact, literally the headline up at the top of Drudge Report, "Every Man Walker runs for White House." Now, every man, what this means is, he's just an average guy, right? Well, the average guy does not have $800 million in billionaire money behind them. And I predict that Walker will. And this is where my kind of conspiracy theory comes in. And keep in mind, the things that Scott Walker has done to Wisconsin on behalf of his patrons, largely the Koch brothers and their right-wing buddies. He's basically turned, Roger Bybee wrote a great piece over at Alternet about this. There's also a great piece on Center for American Progress's blog, Think Progress. Just basically summarizing Scott Walker's time in Wisconsin. Scott Walker cut taxes in Wisconsin. Somebody actually should do a contrast between Wisconsin. In fact, it's been done. We've talked about it on this program. I just don't have it in front of me. Showing the contrast between Wisconsin and Minnesota. Because in Minnesota, you had Mark Dayton, who's the governor who came in, and who's a billionaire, by the way. And the first thing he does is he raises taxes on the rich and on corporations and increases programs for low-income people and starts rebuilding the state's infrastructure. All the opposite things of what Scott Walker has been, and funds the schools better, all opposite of what Scott Walker is doing in Wisconsin. And these are two states that share a very, very similar demographic background. I mean, they're both, largely populated. They're both largely white states. They were mostly populated by Scandinavian immigrants back in the 19th century, although, the diversity goes way beyond that. But they're very similar states, and what's happened is that Minnesota's doing really well, and Wisconsin is kind of pretty much, as Scott Walker is turning it into Mississippi, is it's starting to look like that. David Polenkowski, who's the president of the IBEW, the International Brotherhood of Electrical Workers, Local 2304 in Wisconsin, says, quote, "Wisconsin has become kind of a laboratory for oligarchs to implement their economic and political agenda." And it's true. And the oligarchs, of course, the Kochs. He has led an all-out war on workers, saying that this is going to, generate 250,000 jobs in 4 years. Well, it hasn't. He pushed through Act 10 in 2011, which not only abolished the right of public employees to have union representation, but it drove down the take-home pay of public employees by 10%. So, the billionaires are happy. Hey, the working people are getting poorer. He signed a new anti-union right to work for less bill. This is going to, that was public unions. This will be private sector unions. His budget severely weakens prevailing wage protections. Basically, does away with the concept. It replaces prevailing wage with minimum wage and the minimum wage is $7.25 in Wisconsin, which is pretty bad. He's got this Wisconsin Economic Development Corporation, WEDC, that has given away millions and millions of dollars to corporate cronies and fat cat buddies with virtually no accountability. This is a scandal just waiting to happen. Scott Walker has, in my opinion, has the political instincts of Richard Nixon. I mean, keep in mind, when this guy was running for head of the student body, I think it was, back in college, the local newspaper endorsed his opponent. And so his campaign workers went out and stole all the newspapers. Put a quarter in, opened the drawer, and then just took all the newspapers out and destroyed them, among other things. And then he leaves college, with still a year's worth of college to go after, the official biography after 4 years. But I mean, I can't be one to criticize somebody for leaving college. I did it twice and never graduated. But that he's trying to turn that, and I think that they will do it successfully. This is, as I said, Richard Nixon instincts with a Ronald Reagan agenda. They're going to say, oh, yeah, he's just like, the average working stiff. He didn't even graduate from college. He's not a pointy-headed liberal kind of, or even a pointy-headed conservative. So we'll see. The Wisconsin Economic Development Corporation, has not produced jobs. In fact, the only increase in jobs from 2010 to 2013, according to the census data, this is the latest that we have numbers for, and this is when Walker was governor, shows that the only increase in jobs that have happened in Wisconsin have been low-wage jobs. And Wisconsin is 35th among the states in job creation under Scott Walker. Pretty bad. According to Capital Times, Mike Ivey, reporter for the Capital Times, this is the Madison newspaper, Wisconsin ranks worst among the 50 states in terms of a shrinking middle class, with real median household incomes here falling 14.7% since 2000. It's amazing. And that's household incomes. That's not individual incomes. So individual incomes are probably falling even more because household incomes keep up by by people taking a second job, a third job. Mom goes to work. Kids go to work. Everybody goes to work. He's undermined the public education system. He's slashed funding for K through 12 schools. He's increased funding for privatized schools, for voucherized schools, for private schools. He's lowered the standards for teachers. In fact, the new state budget eliminates qualification requirements for hiring teachers. Teaching ain't all that important. Anybody can do it, right? He's cut $250 million from the University of Wisconsin system, virtually eliminating tenure, and the result of this is that older faculty are trying to leave the University of Wisconsin, and promising young professors are saying, I'm not going to go teach there. There's no chance of getting tenure. I mean, who would want to do that? He's tried to destroy accountability and transparency, and he's made a career humiliating the vulnerable. You got to pee in a cup to get food stamps, or more amazingly, you've got to drug test yourself. You got to be drug tested if you want unemployment benefits. Unemployment benefits. We pay into the unemployment fund through our employers. I mean, it's basically taken out of our paychecks. He's attacked environmental protection. He's laying off a bunch of scientists in the Department of Natural Resources, which will shut up his critics among the environmentalists in the state, because he's going to fire them. He's rolling back abortion rights. He's exploiting the poor, expanding the range of services that are permitted for the payday loan industry, which just makes their money on the poor. I mean, it's amazing. And the public in Wisconsin isn't buying it. I mean, he's 41% approval.
This is the Thom Hartmann Program.
But nationally, and with $800 million from the Koch brothers, look out. This guy's coming to town. I'll tell you about my theory of him and Donald Trump in a little bit.